In the U.S. Army, I was a combat medic when I got pregnant with my first and only child. I was 34 years old. During my pregnancy and birth, things were hard, and I faced a number of situations that could have been very bad. I was told I had preeclampsia, which is characterized by high blood pressure, edema, thrombocytopenia, low platelet counts in the blood, raised liver enzymes that mean there are problems with the liver, shortness of breath from fluid in the lungs, and extreme nausea. I also had low platelet numbers, high liver enzymes, and hemolysis, which is when red blood cells break down. All of these conditions together are known as HELLP syndrome. Multiple organ systems in my body were hurt by this serious form of preeclampsia, along with HELLP syndrome. Since this was the case, the doctors chose to start laboring me when I was 36 weeks pregnant. Pitocin was injected into my uterus through an IV to make it work, which set off cramps that mean labor has begun. In addition, a Foley bulb was put in to help open up the cervix. As I watched the monitor's peaks, I hoped that the contractions would slow down or stop long enough for me to catch my breath. But they didn't. For the next 68 hours, I was stuck in a hospital bed having terrible contractions all the time. My blood pressure had gone through the roof by the 68th hour of labor, so I had to be taken to the hospital for an emergency C-section. They had to work on my son for 3.5 hours before they could free him because he was stuck against my pelvic bones. I will always remember how much I loved him when I held his little hand or saw his sweet face for the first time. Unfortunately, our first meeting was cut short because the nurses had to quickly wash and check on him before pulling my husband out of the operating room to finish taking care of me. Everything went wrong after they stitched me up and took me to the healing area. As I lay in bed, I felt 3 huge streams of blood leave my uterus. From my hips down, I was covered in blood. It had run off the bed and onto the floor, and it looked like it would keep running as we took off the sheets to look at it. I told the officer I thought I was going on and on. The lieutenant's face turned grayish-white when he saw how much blood was being lost. It looked like the face of a cartoon figure. He quickly slammed his hands into my stomach and hit the crash code button on the wall next to my bed to try to stop the blood. In just a few seconds, I lost more than 4 liters of blood because of heavy bleeding. Doctors and nurses rushed over to me right away and started working nonstop to try to save my life. Another doctor asked for 2.5 units of blood for a transfer before I knew it. That's the last thing I remember. I stopped breathing and my heart stopped beating. The organs in my body that handle waste have stopped working. I thought I woke up in space. There was a peaceful darkness around me that moved, breathed, and seemed to have its own life. It felt like the body of a mother. I knew I was the darkness, though. It was a part of me and what it was. Possible things could be the nothing that is everything and the everything that is nothing. I understood and agreed that it was Source. The source of all life, the nothing that is everything, was a part of me. I knew that I was it, that it was me, and that it and I were one. It was always open for us. As I looked around, I saw that there were pinpoints of light all around me, like stars at night. The pinpoints of light were different minds, including mine, and I knew it. There, I felt feelings that were so pure and strong that they were unlike anything I had felt before or since. Sad to say, words like happiness, exhilaration, calm, love, and satisfaction don't do justice to how intensely I felt there. There aren't enough words to describe how big and deep what I went through was. My arm felt like a point in space, and I became more and more interested in it as I played around with it. I heard a weak moaning sound that got my attention. The moans could be heard more and more. I woke up because of my snoring, and I felt like I was back in my body. As I lay in bed in the hospital, my officer stood over me. When I asked him if I was snoring, he said, "Yes, you just opened your eyes and started to snore." I told him I was sorry for snoring. He told me to snore because it would, even if I fell asleep, let him know I was there. When the officer said something, it made me laugh, but he quickly got serious. It seemed like my heart had stopped, and I had been dead for 7 minutes while they tried to bring me back to life. I was then told to never do that, die again. I told him that I would try not to, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. He shot back that it was an order, not a suggestion. As a combat medic in the U.S. Army, the last thing I was told over and over was to live. After my NDE, I was in the hospital for 10 days. My bowels, kidneys, and liver hadn't started to work yet. I still only had femoral and carotid pulses because I had lost so much blood. I did not have pedal or radial pulses. It took my body 4 days to get enough blood flow back to normal for my leg and radial pulses. The problems with my liver, kidneys, and bowels were fixed after 10 days. They wanted to do dialysis, but I said no. I told them to do nothing for a little while longer so my body could heal itself. I had just left. It could take longer than 1 minute to finish. After everything that had happened, no one could believe I was still living, so my company used me as a case study. My warrior friends like to call me Zombie Mom and Care Bear the Undead. Thanks to my NDE, I've seen the beautiful place that waits for me on the other side. But during my time there, I learned that life on Earth is mostly just a game. This is where difference is felt, because it's not there anywhere else. In this place, we can feel anger, sadness, pain, and other emotions. These feelings help you grow and be thankful. They let us experience things in a state of pure awareness that we couldn't imagine in the ecstasy of death. I have more insight, empathy, and a strong sense of what I know. If someone is physically sick or mentally upset, for example, I can tell just by being near them. I believe that we can fix ourselves if we think and feel the right way. I know when someone will pass away. I know when bad things are going to happen. Before they even put on their blinkers, I can tell when the car in front of me is going to turn left. I've also learned how to observe from a distance, which I've used to find lost people and things. Just one last thing. I know that we are more than the bodies we live in. Our adventure is over for the day. As always, you can say what you think in the area below the comments. Be careful, and may you continue to be lucky until we meet again.